Everybody, welcome back. Northernlion plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus, 11 wins in a row, and honestly, like, we shouldn't have, in many ways, we shouldn't even be here right now. That's okay. That's okay, we just want to make sure we don't take this one in the same room. So, do I take pills? Do I not take pills? I don't know, man. It's, you know, we take it as a case-by-case basis. I will tell you, this is the first, the way I look at my work week, this is the first video of the week. 10:02 a.m. on a Sunday morning, ready to get things started on the right foot. Like, look at that, X-Lax, for example. And look at that, Luck Down. Okay, so this seems like if we're doing it on a case-by-case basis, probably this case we would like to be thrown out because you're in contempt of the court. We got average speed, terrible rate of fire, terrible damage, at least 1 HP, just because we know that, first off, I mean, we hold these truths to be self-evident. You have to have HP to be alive in the first place on an eat and run. So on top of that, we also have the breakfast, or whatever the, look, let's be honest, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's all the same. In Isaac, you know, you're not getting breakfast for dinner. You're not doing, you know, like Belgian waffles at 7 p.m. It's all just a means to an end. Talked about Brinner many times before. If you're not, you know, if you need to be reminded of my personal position on Brinner, also known as breakfast for dinner, I'm not against it. I sometimes get libelous accusations. I don't know, libel is when a misrepresentative thing is printed. Would you say an internet comment is libel? It's not slander unless they're using speech to text. I'd have to consider it. I don't know. You know, it's for more detail-oriented minds than myself, is what I would say. People suggest this guy doesn't like breakfast for dinner. It's not the case. I just feel like maybe it's a little overrepresented as like a cool, you know, poggy thing that everybody's into. I like breakfast. Don't get me wrong. And breakfast for dinner, sure, but I'm one of those weirdos, I guess. If we're going out for, like, you know, Belgian waffles or something like that, you're gonna get, like, you know, maple syrup, strawberries, something like that. I'm gonna get, like, goat cheese and pesto. And I'm telling you, it works. You might not think that it works. That's your preconceived notions of what a waffle's supposed to taste like talking. You're not actually evaluating it on its own merits. Anyway, we don't need to go into that. Suffice it to say, yeah, I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm a savory waffle guy. Don't get waffles too often, to be honest. It's not, I mean, I like waffles. I like them a lot. But I think I kind of overdosed on waffles as a youngster. Whenever I would, like, again, I've said this before, it's just for clarification's sake. I'm not trying to, like, flex or anti-flex. But we lived in a duplex with, you know, me, my parents, and my grandparents for, like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years when I was younger. So, you know, during summer vacations, my grandma would handle my breakfast every day. And I learned, like, honestly, probably, like, 10 of the pounds I still carry with me. I'm not going to say she's responsible, like I'm an adult, but she put me kind of, like, behind the back burner. Like, sometimes for breakfast, she would be like, here's some strawberries. You're like, what's wrong with that? I guess maybe strawberries a little high in sugar, but nothing you gotta worry about, especially as like an 8-year-old. Nah, dude. She would have like strawberries in a bowl, and then she would put white sugar on top of it. Enough that it, you know, you could feel the crunch in your teeth. It's like, no wonder, as a kid, I was like, I don't like fruit. I mean, I liked fruit as a kid, but still. You know, you're like, you know, why would I eat fruit when I could eat fruit by the foot? You're like, because your grandma's got you thinking, you know, strawberries are so tart, you need to add sugar to sweeten it up. It's like 80% fruit sugar. Anyway, she's probably like 98% fruit sugar. Regardless, I'm happy with the tiers upgrade. We'll leave and hope to get a blood bank. Lots of HP. Feeling pretty good, actually. Feeling pretty good here. As we prefer it. We much prefer it. Some of the things I like, I mean, I don't hold it against my grandma, you know. It's not like, you know, she was doing it benevolently, you know, not maliciously. You know, what can I say? The kid likes it when I put sugar on his breakfast. But, you know, her nutritional standards, they're from a different era. They're not in keeping, especially with the, you know, post new millennium sort of like eat vegetables. They're like, what? But with cheese sauce on them, right? Anyway, so like if I wasn't having like strawberries and bananas with extra sugar on top of them, I was oftentimes having like these Eggo waffles for breakfast every single day. And I think it just like, you ever eat so much of something that you just like you never want to have it again? I'm pretty sure that's what happened to me. I'm at like the end of a 2-decade sabbatical of staying away from Eggo waffles. I think I could possibly consider returning to the fold. I have a lot of very similar stories about my grandma's cooking. Again, not to be rude to her, but I've told this before. She didn't actually like cook potatoes. She would like buy, and some people nowadays doubt that these even exist, but I promise you that they do. She would buy like canned little round potatoes. So they're like, I think they're pre-boiled and then canned, so you just have to heat them up. So she would take these like pre-boiled little potatoes, and then she would cook them in the oven, so they would get like crispy on the outside. And I know you're thinking that sounds great. Well, hear me out here. It goes further, unfortunately. They'd be like crispy on the outside, almost like an eggshell. And then on the inside, they would be like spongy because the potatoes absorbed so much water during the canning process. They don't taste like any food you will have ever consumed before, or hopefully since. But anyway, this is much less of a kind of complainy story. But my grandfather was an avid fisherman. I remember like one summer he just caught so much bass. You know, it's amazing, and don't get me wrong, it's a luxury to have it in the first place. But you know, he caught so much bass that, you know, we kept staggering amounts of it in a chest freezer, and like 3 times a week we would eat beer battered fish and chips. And as like a 10-year-old, like eventually I just to the point where I was like, I think we actually had it so often that I threw up at one point. And you know, my parents were like, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm just so sick of this, you know, wild caught bass. Now I have to admit it sounds pretty nice. But at the time it's just, you know, I guess at the time variety was the spice of life. Let's put it that way. We don't really like what's going on here, so I will buy this. It's a good run, no doubt about that. Wait, okay, hold on. We should use Black Rune. I'm still rebooting the old brain everything. The old brain everything. We should Black Rune the pills, because we're not going to keep them. We're like, those are just gone to the ether. Hopefully we still get our deal with the devil here, but no guarantees. I know you're saying, you know, if you're an avid viewer of the program, you're saying, NL, I thought you were like one of those I could eat the same food every day sort of guys. I am. When I was 10, I wasn't, I guess. The other thing is that, I don't know, maybe at some point my, like, adolescent body was sending me a message that's like, you shouldn't be eating this much deep-fried fish. You know, you're a growing boy, this would be a great time for you to have, like, some kind of green leafy vegetable. But, yeah, now I'm much more like I'm one of those people who 100%, pardon me, if I wasn't so cheap, I could definitely just live on Soylent. Like, I could drink like 5 Soylents a day for the, well, let's be honest, I'm probably more of a 6 Soylent a day sort of guy. 2,500 calories, 2,000 is a little light for me. You know, obviously I have a very active job as somebody who sits in an ergonomic chair all day, so I think that my caloric needs are slightly higher than the average person's. That's not because I'm necessarily a big fan of Soylent, it's more just, I'm low maintenance, you know? I really am. You give me, you know, a balanced macronutrient profile, 6 hours of sleep, and a snobby foreign movie that takes itself too seriously, and I'm very happy. That's my natural habitat. Anyway, it is a Sunday. Didn't really get up to, I mean, and, you know, stop me if you've heard this one before over the course of the past 9 months or so. Didn't really get up to that much this weekend. only on top of like the normal restrictions because of COVID, and then also the imposed restrictions that we have because we have a newborn, i.e., you know, let's like not go out to a club, and then as if they were open to begin with, and then the extra restriction is now on top of all of that. It's actually like the winter time, so like it's nice actually in a way. And I know you didn't think I was going to take that in a positive direction, but I had like a really like heartwarming sort of, I don't know, it's not like there was a catalyst for the moment, but you know, I woke up at 7:30 or something like that because our daughter was crying. So I'm not saying like I got it hard, you know, I got it really easy. Kate has to wake up to do, you know, milk supply maintenance. It's probably the weirdest way I could possibly describe that, but she's got to wake up at like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. every night. And then she goes back to bed, but, you know, when she wakes up, she also warms up some milk so that when I wake up in, like, 2 or 3 hours, or 1 to 3 hours, I guess, you know, it's faster for me to feed the baby. That way I don't have to wait for it to warm up and stuff like that. Did not mean to buy that. I'll tell you what, I'll go a little deeper on this one. Grab this, and this is now... All we need is a little bit more offense, and this run is like... This is like a 12-minute run. Well, I guess we're already 11:30 in, so maybe more of like a 22-minute run. Anyway, and I was just sort of like, you know, I fed the baby, and then I burped the baby, and then I put her down on her, like, you know, little lounger. I don't know, there's no real, like, adult analog. It's like a recliner for a baby, but it kind of like... It's like one of those chairs from WALL-E. It just like perfectly balances and distributes the weight of the individual. And then she falls asleep like in a second, right? So I put the baby blanket on her, and it was a little chilly outside, but the indoor heating, you know, was warming me up, and I was cozied up under the blanket, and I was like, you know what? This is very nice. Like I'm having a very nice time. So I actually do like... For all the reputation that I might have as a curmudgeon, I feel human emotions. Maybe not the same that everybody else feels at all times. Maybe I access them differently, but I feel it, you know? And I actually do like, you know, there's a few holidays I'm not an enormous fan of. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily, like, the biggest fan of Christmas. Like, I'm not one of those people who, like, puts the Christmas songs on, like, the day after American Thanksgiving or whatever. But I like when it's cold outside, but it's warm inside. It's kind of like it's a nice vibe, right? Cozy. The dictionary definition of the word. Probably could have blank carded this, but let's ignore that. This one is like, it should be pretty clear that this one's under control. Clean, clear, and under control. Alright, I can live with that. But we're snapping back to Saturday night now. You know, Kate was like, let's go out for a walk. So we went out for a walk, and you know, I do live in essentially Canada's warmest major city. It's not like freezing here, but it's a little icy on the ground at least. And certainly we want this. You know, you're dealing with a newborn who you're like, anytime, like, you know the expression, if you're cold, they're cold? Like, that's what we had going on. You know, my hands got a little bit chilly, and I was like, our baby's gonna get hypothermia. So, on top of, like, the normal level of, you know, you can't do anything because of the newborn, and you can't do anything because of the virus, you've also got, like, a certain level of, oh, yeah, and also, like, it's, now you can't do that much because of the weather. But that's, you know, again... I'm very much a homebody. I'm not trying to complain and say like it's taking its toll. Rather, you know, I'm making an excuse to the fact that I got no anecdotes. Okay, that's what it's all about here. Pretty much just well, you know what? You know what I did? I watched the first episode of The Queen's Gambit. How about that? I scrolled through Netflix for like, you know, half an hour. And went, there's nothing that I want to see. Okay, fine. I'll watch this highly critically acclaimed limited series that comes very recommended, and also is about a subject matter that I'm interested in right now as well. Okay, fine. I'll do it if you're gonna twist my arm. And I don't know. I don't know what to think. It's only the first episode. Seems very, you know, very well shot so far. I don't mean that as like a backhanded compliment. I mean, like, I enjoyed the first episode. I'm just like, you know, let's give it a little more time to see how it goes. On the subject of chess, dude, I gotta tell you, I never thought, I know I've said it a few times here, but I never thought I'd get back into it this hard. I will say, I tweeted chess.com and I said, what if you just gave me the Grandmaster, what? Okay. I said, what if you just gave me the Grandmaster tag? Just to mess with Gotham Chess, who is, I say this without a hint of disrespect, merely an international master. Has merely achieved, you know, the second highest possible certification of chess competency, which takes, you know, decades, or at the very least, like a decade of considerable practice and study and dedication and travel and consistency and so on and so forth. But and then they did it. Now here's the thing, they did do it on, and I'm not complaining, they did do it on my day off. So a lot of people were like, surely you gotta like move your day off to, you know, take advantage of the fact that you got the GM tag on chess.com. I can't do that on, like, you know, part of the, because I don't know, like, once you, sure, it's a special situation, but, like, there's always special situations. I know how that sounds, but, you know, once you, I'm really trying to be protective of that, you know, like, errand and family time, you know, and not just be like, because I think, like, at some point you could create a situation where, like, all 7 days you got something special, you know, like, there's always unique opportunities and stuff like that pop up, and, you know, last minute, like, hey, we need one more person for this thing. Do you want to do it? And, you know, I'm trying to kind of, perhaps overly draconian of me, but, you know, kind of draw a line in the sand there. So I didn't record any with the GM tag, but I was happy to have it. I thought it was a fun meme. I did play some bullet games, you know, some like 1 minute bullet games with the tag, and I just wanted to know, like, what my opponents thought. When they loaded into Bullet Chess and saw that their opponent was a Grandmaster who, like, in Bullet I'm only rated, like, 1340 or something like that. They were probably like, oh, it's a bug. But I wonder if they were like, what happened to this guy? So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much like my weekend. Chess.com gave me the Grandmaster certification as a meme, and watched the Queen's Gambit. And honestly, I started reading a little bit more, like, not really, like, studying, I suppose is not really the right word, but just kind of like taking a cursory glance at, like, because sometimes people will leave a comment that's like, hey, NL, have you considered playing, like, the ready defense? And I'm like, that sounds familiar. And then I go on, like, a Wikipedia rabbit hole, and all of a sudden I'm, like, in tears. I'm like, the life of Botvinnik is so inspiring, you know? But yeah, it's interesting. I gotta tell you, like, the world of chess study has changed so much since I was a teenager, or you know, an adolescent at the turn of the millennium. Like, I remember I had three, like, my 3 Bibles were, these books by, an American, I think he's a Grandmaster, named Yasser Seirawan, who is kind of, you know, he's well known. He's maybe not as famous necessarily as, like, a Hikaru or anything like that, but, you know, he is well known for sure, and, he wrote these books that, I don't know, they were probably like 400 pages long, and they each focused on, like, one aspect of the game. Like, one was, I remember, of the 3 books, I remember, like, I'm pretty sure the endgame book was, like, a verdant green color, pardon me, and the opening book was, like, a maroon, and I don't remember the mid-game book, because, like, who wants to study the mid-game, right? I'll just figure it out as I go. Said nobody ever. That's probably a shop. I think we're okay. Don't have a lot of money. It's like the one thing we don't have here. And you wouldn't, like, you didn't have these interactive, like, puzzles back in the day, really. Like, sometimes the newspaper would have, like, a puzzle, and it would be, like, this little, like, 2-inch board, and it would be like, find mate in 3, and you're like, man, this is, Even back then, I was like, this is archaic. But you really, like, I had reams and reams of, like, chess notation paper. So you would, like, go through the book, and maybe you would have a board next to you simultaneously, and you would kind of, like, play out the positions and analyze it for yourself. The internet has really, like, revolutionized and also, like, streamlined that procedure. Sorry, I'm just a little itchy here. It's so much easier now. No wonder, like, the chess is, like, a little bit more accessible and popular now, when you can get, like, instant feedback on whether or not your moves were right, instead of and like, also, like, the most powerful computers, and, well, I mean, I guess they're not the most powerful computers imaginable, but, like, on the other hand, you know, you can instantly have, like, a computer that's evaluated at, like, 3600 ELO be like, here's the reason that move's wrong. You know, instead of bringing it to the best local player at your chess club who's like, I don't know, I think maybe, like, you should do this instead. You know, he could be wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about sometimes. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, I've just been, you know, a little bit more interested in the play and study of chess. That's it. It's haunting my thoughts day and night like a specter. The same way Warzone did when I was in the Warzone, only, you know, it's nice to be, like, half decent at something. I'm just trying to imagine, like, how I want the rest of this run to go. You would think maybe, or no, you probably wouldn't, but I did briefly. Like, what if we use the Emperor card, fight the boss, see if we get a deal with the devil, and then, you know, if we can get into boss rush, which obviously temporally is a problem now, but we could use the Emperor card to teleport out. And yes, that's true, except it isn't. You could teleport out of the boss rush, but you can't teleport out of the boss room, so you lose out on all those resources. You probably didn't need me to say it, but I'm going to say it regardless, because it's already been said. But yeah, that was my weekend. Pretty low-key, honestly. Pretty just relaxed. I really do, like, if we're talking best times of the year, for me, in terms of ambiance, I really like... I really like at the end of winter, when it, like, the first days where it starts warming up, and you kind of get reminded of the fact, like, oh yeah, it's not, like, cold and wet at all times. It depends where you live, obviously, but, you know, in Vancouver it never gets, like, horrible, but there are times that are more pleasant than others. But I also really like that December period. I'm telling you, like, I think it's like a global psy-op to have you love the month of December. Like, they give you almost 2 decades of getting Christmas vacation. You get a bunch of presents. You get, you know, to eat delicious meals and stuff like that. And then, you know, they ask you when you're 75, what's your favorite time of the year, Granddad? You're like, I think I've got some fond memories of December. Holiday, I mean, you know, it depends. You know, holidays are hard for people as well. But especially this year, I'm sure. That being said, I don't know. It's just the feeling of coziness, right? I wonder, like, if you live in a place that's really hot, like, if you're watching this and you live in a tropical region, do you, or as Invicta would say, you know, if you live in Texas, because obviously, like, you know, everything's bigger in Texas, including a distaste for the weather. You know, everywhere else they say, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes. Well, in Texas, if you don't like the weather, wait 9 minutes. Everything's just a little bit more... it's just different there. You wouldn't understand. Okay, so that's a really good chance to become guppy. But if you live in an area where it's very hot, do you feel like the opposite? Like when summer turns to fall, you get those first few days where it's like double digits Fahrenheit instead of triple digits, and you're like, ah, I forgot the earth can be hospitable from time to time. Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things you probably should get out of the habit of asking, like, rhetorical questions over the course of a very one-sided video like this. Not guppy, guppy, guppy. Oh, hey. You don't see that too much. We've been getting guppy a lot less lately. I would say, honestly, like, the only other thing I would deign to suggest that we really need... What a great word, deign. D-E-I... GN. Well, this is a great time for this deal with the devil, because we wouldn't want to buy anything sight unseen. Head of Krampus we don't care about, but at least, you know, Krampus is done. You got something? It looks like... I was going to say, it looked like you had something in there. Trust me, you know, I'm taking care of a baby right now. I can tell on your face, whether you're an infant, an adult, or a pixelated video game familiar, I can tell whether you got a bowel movement coming. It's a superpower I did not ask for, but with great power comes great responsibility. Patting strangers on the shoulder in the subway going, I know what you're going through. It's going to be okay. The next station has a bathroom. Okay, hold up. Yeah, we don't really need anything else. Maybe, like, more defense is probably the big thing. It just goes to show you, you know, you can't always use attributes as, like, the only thing to, you know, indicate to you whether or not you've got a good run. I just left the luck upgrade behind, but this one is, if we're being honest, basically over regardless. But, I don't actually have that superpower, by the way, in case you were wondering. Moreover, I'm not actually, like, on the subway at all. First off, in Vancouver, it's called the SkyTrain. It's not a subway. It's not like other trains. It's a cool train. And then also on top of that, you know, I think I've... In 2020, I bet I have used the SkyTrain, like, less than... I'm trying to think. Definitely, like, I think back in the summer, case count was, like, really low here. And we did go, I mean, we didn't go out to be like, let's party, but we were like, hey, we can actually, like, you know, go to the mall and pick up, like, you know, the soaps and lotions that have been out for, like, 6 months. And then in, you know, September, it was like, we're getting ready for the baby. And then by the time, you know, the baby was ready to go outside, it was like, oh, it's bad out again. Okay. I bet I've used public transportation 3 times in 2020. That's my guess. I'm not bragging, by the way. I love the public transit here. It's less of... I mean, you know why. It's more circumstance. I don't need to give you the same 4 reasons over and over. Oh, that's because I'd rather take the Lamborghini Murcielago. Just, you know, for day-to-day driving. I don't want to take the Bugatti Veyron out of the garage. You know, it's got to be detailed, and... the salt that they put on the road can scuff the carbon fiber, you know. It's a whole to-do, so... most of the time, I'd rather just drive the Ferrari Testarossa, but... okay. It's a joke! I could never drive those cars because they're manual only. You gotta know how to actually shift the gears instead of just letting the transmission do it for you. Okay. Yeah, I know, you're from Europe, and in Europe, oh, you're so proud of yourselves. Oh, in Europe, we drive manual. Okay, great. Oh, in Europe, we don't tip. Okay, amazing. Yeah, in Europe, you know, you also, like, bury cheese in the ground in order to age it. You ever hear of a Costco? Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See ya!